Thank you, Chairwoman Waters, Ranking Member McHenry, and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. When the Supreme Court lifted the federal eviction moratorium, it eliminated the last federal protection, keeping 6.5 million families behind on their rent stably housed. The unprecedented resources that Congress provided for emergency rental assistance has yet to reach many of them. Now they are at risk of losing their homes as the Delta variant surges. The urgency of getting assistance to tenants and landlords cannot be overstated, but many communities are spending their ERA allocations much too slowly. Just $7.5 billion of the first $25 billion of ERA has been spent or obligated. While ERA helped nearly 1 million households through July, at least another 1.2 million submitted applications but have yet to receive aid. Many others struggle to complete applications due to complexity, inaccessibility, or documentation requirements. Some programs are successfully scaling up. New Jersey, Virginia, Texas, Massachusetts, and DC have all spent over half of their ERA1. 6 states have spent more than 30%, and several states have made major recent improvements. Dozens of cities have spent over 70% of their ERA1. These programs make clear that success is possible, but they are outliers. 17 states and many localities have spent less than 10% of their first ERA allocation. Some were slowed down by state legislatures or city councils. A few received more ERA than needed due to Congress's faulty formula allocation. Many struggled with landlords' refusal to participate in programs. But the primary issue with slow ERA spending is that many programs are not following clear Treasury and White House guidance and are not adopting evidence-based best practices. Slow spending ERA programs tend to do little outreach. They don't hire enough staff to process applications. They have long and complicated applications with overly burdensome documentation requirements. For example, fewer than 17% of programs explicitly allow renters to use self-attestation to document income or housing instability. This, despite Treasury guidance that has, since March, allowed self-attestation for all eligibility criteria. Only 28% of programs explicitly allow direct-to-tenant assistance, despite it being permissible and critical to keeping renters housed when landlords refuse to participate. It's unfortunately clear that by now, if flexibilities and best practices remain optional, many programs will not adopt them. So the Biden administration should continue to use all available tools, including their ability to recapture and reallocate ERA funds, to require best practices in all programs. And Congress should consider statutory changes to turn flexibilities and best practices into requirements. Legislation introduced by Chairwoman Waters builds off existing Treasury guidance and addresses the root causes of slow ERA spending. NLIHC has deep reservations about allowing landlords to receive ERA without tenant involvement. The legislation provides important protections in such cases to lessen fraud or tenant harassment. These protections must remain and be expanded as the bill moves forward. Congressman McHenry's legislation would halt most program spending by first requiring Treasury to rescind and redo guidance, then requiring programs to make changes counter to best practices, and by prohibiting use of ERA funds for needed staffing or technology. The bill would ensure that the needs of many landlords and renters go unmet. There are proven and simple ways for ERA programs to expedite assistance. Hire staff, do robust outreach, simplify applications, use self-attestation, provide direct-to-tenant assistance. The best programs are already doing this. Those that aren't should course correct, as Texas, California, New York, and Connecticut have done, and as South Carolina and Arkansas announced recently they will do. For those that don't or won't, both the Biden administration and Congress should require these improvements. Thank you again for the opportunity to testify. I look forward to your questions.